All right, I just finished my third world tour with Beyonce, and the amount of messages that I've gotten about what cameras I'm using, what lenses I'm using, what my camera settings are, how I'm editing, how I'm packing, all these things is astronomical. So I decided to make a video about that and tell you how I film concerts. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Ben. I'm a director, cinematographer, photographer, editor, blah, 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 blah. And over the years, I've been lucky enough to work on some legendary projects, especially on the live music side. I started out with Chris Brown in 2015, got to shoot my first world tour with Schoolboy Q in 2016. Then I went on to do some festivals with Kendrick Lamar, and then connected with Beyonce in 2018 for her Coachella performance, and then her OTR2 tour with Jay-Z, and then the Renaissance tour. And then we just finished the Cowboy Carter tour a couple weeks ago. So I've had a lot of time to dial in my gear setup, how I move on tour, how I approach shooting shows. And the whole point of this channel is for me to share my thoughts, my ideas, any lessons I've learned along the way and give that back to y'all. So let's get started. All right, first thing I want to discuss is my approach to shooting concerts. But before I do that, will you please hit that subscribe button? I guess the more subscribers I have, the better my channel will perform and the more people I will reach. And so my goal is to help people. So the more people that get reached by this video, the better. So hit the subscribe button, please, please. I'm not afraid of shameless promotion. Anyways, when it comes to the approach to how I shoot a show, there's multiple factors that come into play. I took some notes so that I could be on point with you and not, ramble too much. So sorry for having my phone in the video. There's so many things that happen within one singular performance, and kind of asking yourself these questions to dial in your approach will help, in my opinion. So like, understanding your objectives. Like if you're getting hired by a client or the artist, what are they wanting you to do? And then what are your deliverable goals? Are you there to document the process and the behind the scenes of all the intricate parts and moving pieces of a performance? Are you there to highlight the artist and make really epic hero footage to make a recap? What is your purpose for being there? And then how are you going to make sure that you knock those all out during the performance? Other questions I try to think about are like, how long is the show? Because that could change what lenses you decide to use. How often you can switch lenses, if you need to switch cameras, if you need to have multiple cameras to cover the show. Understanding your total time and then planning backwards how you're going to shoot the show is really key. You'd also want to consider if there's any gags or props that will be on the stage, or a band, dancers, pyro, lasers, cryo, fireworks. Like what is going to happen during the show and when? And like clearly your job is to establish and find the most epic angles and vantage points to capture a show. And so a lot of that comes with coordinating with the production team to find out where can you shoot from, where can't you shoot from. Maybe there's a danger zone, maybe there's a high traffic zone. There's things that you have to be considerate of, because the last thing you want to do is step on people's shoes and get in the crew's way of getting their job done safely, and then keeping yourself safe. Making sure that you've scouted and looked at all the spaces and places that you can capture from well before the show starts, so that when the time comes, you're not flustered and trying to figure out, how do I get up to the nosebleeds? What elevator do I take or stair set do I take to get up to that rafter? Can I even go into the crowd? If I do, where are the barricades? Things like that. There's like 85 million questions you need to ask yourself so that you don't get caught in a stupid position, because trust me, I've been caught in some stairwells that have doors that lock on both sides, and I'm just sitting there pounding on a door till someone hears me to let me out because I thought that was the way up or the way down, and I burn 5, 6, 7 songs because I'm stuck in a fucking stairwell.
Why am I up here, man? Why?
That's happened to me multiple times. So scouting and understanding some of that stuff will save you some time and headaches. So I like to think about all that shit and start working backwards. This is a great tip. Maybe some of you do this already. What I like to do is get the running set list and copy all of that into my notes. And any of those cues, the pyro cues, where they are even going to be at. Some of these stadiums, there's multiple stages. So are they on the A stage or are they on the B stage? I try to make as many of those notes because some of these shows are very long, and I have the brain of a fish. My short-term memory loss is astronomical, so I can't remember anything. But I have all kinds of ideas, so using a set list and then breaking that down into my notes helps me remember, where are they at? Who is there? What is happening? So here's an example. Song 1 starts out on the A stage and the main artist rises up from a lift and then stands there and sings. Like, that is a basic note that I could put at the top that would help me remember what is happening during song 1 or song 20. The next thing that I like to take notes on is ways I would shoot that. So dolly shot, stage left to stage right, 16 to 35, ultra wide, slow-mo shot. I try to make this as detailed as possible, especially on a tour, and it constantly changes every single show. Maybe I accomplish a goal, I'll get rid of that and I'll come up with a new goal. I try to be as detailed as possible, but also making it very quick and easy to digest. So when I'm in the fly, I can just quickly pull out my phone, see what I'm trying to do, and go and try to accomplish that shot. I'll even use images and I'll mark up photos from past shows that give me ideas of like, go here or circle here or do this thing or this is the angle. So whatever it takes for you to remind yourself. These are just a few ways that I would approach a show. And then understanding your gear, and I'll get into gear in a second, is so critical. But before I do that, I would like to say that one of the things I feel that has set me apart since I first got into shooting live concerts till now is thinking about the scale of the show. My job is always to identify and highlight the magnitude of what this is. There's so many elements to the show that's so critical. So I'm trying to think of what I can do to highlight that. How can I highlight the energy of the fans? How can I highlight the stadium, the layout of the stadium, how packed it is, how sold out it is, the performance, the dance, the chaos, the energy of the show itself. Those are always the things that you should be thinking of. A lot of people I've seen just, they lock in and stay in one spot. They'll stay on top of the stage and rip photos from there, which is exciting, especially when you're new. But I think a lot of the sauce comes from going out into the crowd, going up into the nosebleeds, finding the rafters, getting in a mosh pit with fans, being able to showcase the different elements of what people are experiencing of the show, as well as what is the show that we are experiencing. When it comes to gear is 100% dependent on the project and what the project calls for. But for today, I'm going to talk about what's in my kit, because my kit is lit and I feel that I've accumulated the best tools to, be a one-man band. Whatever I mention, I'll link it in the description so I can make it easier for you guys. So the camera that I use to shoot concerts, but basically anytime I throw a camera on a gimbal, is the Canon EOS R1. It was the Canon EOS R3 before the R1 came out. I love these cameras, especially when it's with motion and needing autofocus. And obviously I'm wearing a Canon shirt. If you don't know, I'm a Canon ambassador. Your boy's lit. I'm a Canon ambassador. Beep, 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 beep. But seriously, I know some of you are curious, like why I choose Canon over Sony or Nikon. I don't even know why that's a question. But some of you are curious about that, or you want to know why or how I signed with Canon. Let me know in the comments, because that could be another video I can make at a later date, which might be cool. Let me know. Yeah, so this camera has just been an absolute workhorse. The autofocus is insane. The facial recognition, where you can do picture priority, you can literally take a photo of your subject, up to like 8 or 10 photos, I think. So you could have a sea of people and it's going to find that person specifically and hold that focus on them, which has been incredible, especially when you're shooting an artist with dancers around them. 4K 60 frames and raw is bananas what you can pull out of the image. The camera is sexy as hell. It's lightweight and the battery life is incredible. The other camera I use is the Canon EOS C80, which is filming me right now. So I can just have something in my hands. I'll hold my C70 for now, but it looks pretty close to this. But the C80 is incredible. I use it as a docu camera, especially when it's fully rigged out. Having a monitor, a nice mic, being able to monitor your sound on the fly, built-in NDs, the image looks incredible. I love this camera for any behind-the-scenes docu-style filming, but I also like using it to shoot shows. Its autofocus is pretty incredible. Swapping out the RF glass and throwing on some cinema lenses, having an AC that can pull focus. I've done that a few times and the images are insane. So I love my C80. The other camera that I won't go anywhere without is the Canon XA70. I like to call this thing the dad cam, because it's like the type of camera a dad would be filming home videos on. It does give off the energy of a home video camera, which makes people, I don't know, when you're filming docu style stuff, your subject becomes a little bit more relaxed, because it's not this big bulky camera that you would feel like it's reality TV. It's much more stripped down. It's also very easy to take with you in places that aren't easy to bring cameras in. I like to have this strap on so I can just keep it around on my side. It just hangs here. When a moment pops up, I just flip it on and start filming. The zoom on this is really cool. I've shot shows with this. I've been up in the nosebleeds and start out all the way on my subject and then pull way out, and it just looks really cool. Don't sleep on this camera. This is a really, really dope camera to have on you. Plus it has infrared, which is pretty lit. I was just shooting docu the other night and we were in this like really dark area and I flipped on the infrared and it just looked really cool. Like I wouldn't have been able to use the shot before that. Shooting photos, I use my R1. I also have an R5. And then last, it's fun to just, if you want to bring some old media with you, this DV camera, the Canon ZR300. But this is really fun for like docu and making things feel gritty or whatever. When I'm shooting on the R1, especially at concerts, I don't have built-in ND on that. So I got that Peter McKinnon Polar Pro ND. I don't know. I'll link to this in the description of the camera, what it's called. But it's really nice and it has a quick release on the back so you can like pop it off your lens. So if I needed to go from like the 70-200 to my 15-35, I can just like beep beep and it's done. For media, I have a bunch of SD cards and CFast Express Type B cards. OWC has sent me a bunch of their stuff. Highly recommend OWC's cards. Also, this is a sidebar, but this OWC SSD, this thing's 32 terabytes. It is blazing fast. It's insane. So if you're ready to drop some money for your home workstation, or you just need something that's like this small that you can toss in your camera bag and bring with you on the road, link to that in the description. And the last thing that's been critical to how I shoot shows is the Ronin. This is their RS4 Pro. I've had every Ronin that DJI has put out. It's crazy that they haven't sponsored me yet, but I've used every gimbal that they've ever created. In 2018, when I first started working with Beyonce, I had the Ronin M. And if you remember, that had two handles, the little bar across the top. When we were in the middle of the OTR2 tour with Beyonce and Jay-Z, they released the Ronin S, which is the first of its type like this. The first day that I got it, first off, I thought it was insane because I could do like the camera roll thing. Dave and I were doing that in a hotel hallway and thought it was epic. But the next thing that I did was pop off this little tripod mount here at the bottom, and I stuck a monopod on the bottom of it, because the one thing I was realizing when I was shooting shows is, especially with the M at the time, I'm down in the pit, and so a lot of my shots are just low shots, and it's like, it's cool, but after a while it gets kind of stale. And I was trying to figure out like, how could I get up higher, because the stage that we have is like 8 foot tall. I was like, maybe if I put the monopod up, I could get at eye level. And so I tossed on the monopod, and I developed this sixth sense between me trusting the camera's autofocus and tuning the Ronin to the exact setting so that when I needed to tilt or pan or push, whatever, I could do it and know that the shot was going to look like it was in my head, because all I have to monitor this with is this guy. And so I would tilt this thing down and I would be fully extended. My monopod's like 80 some inches above my head. I need to have a massage therapist for life because my neck is just like straight. I'm looking straight up at this tiny little viewfinder trying to frame up my shots. And especially with the R1 now, this autofocus is just absolutely next level. So being able to do that made me very nimble and quick. And I know there's different ways where I could like rig up a, my small HD monitor down at the bottom of my monopod, and I could monitor it that way and deal with focus and all this stuff. But to me, that limits me. And I like being able to be as tall as I possibly can, fully extended, and then drop that all the way down. And I'll unhook the monopod, put back on the little feet, and go low mode again and start shooting. I even built this. I had to go get this out of my suitcase that I still haven't unpacked yet. I even rigged up this funny looking like Zelda strap. If I went from high and I wanted to go low, I'll unscrew this, toss this thing over my back, and then be able to go film in low mode like this with this thing's, this thing's tossed behind my back. This is a horrible example, but you get what I'm saying. So that's been my forte, especially when shooting these shows. And there's something, the sixth sense is real. I got that thing all the way up, and somehow I'm able to like be walking quite fast, sideways or backwards or forwards, while I'm in like a tight barricade with security and cables and all kinds of moving parts. It's full chaos and still keep the frame there, which is a cool talent, I guess. But it wouldn't be possible without, having amazing autofocus or an AC pulling focus for you. So the next thing I'll talk about is the camera settings. The C80 that I'm using to shoot this is pretty straightforward. Really, the key is just setting up these buttons to make sure that you have them preset to whatever tools that you would like to use when you're filming. When it comes to the camera settings with the R1, trying to shoot anything cinematically, I have a couple of specific ways that I like to set this up. One of my first ones is setting up the mode button so I can quickly switch between 24, 60 frames, and even 120 frames. Then there's the next battle of like when to shoot raw. And if I'm shooting shows for an artist, for any of my clients at this point, I'm gonna always shoot raw. It's gonna chew up data, but the image quality is gonna look absolutely absurd. So I'm always in raw. I shoot everything in log 2. So with autofocus, I have a few different areas, which is like setting up the coordinates of where you want the autofocus to focus on. I usually keep it at a square like this, and that way I can use the joystick to kind of move around and pick my points. If I'm shooting an artist, I'll pick people. Sometimes you may be trying to focus on something else, like a guitar. So I'll set a button so that I can turn that on and off quickly. Eye detection, super sick. Registering people from priority. This is where it gets insane. So I'll just show you how it works. I'm gonna take a picture of myself, say okay. So now when I have my camera and I turn it on my face, you're gonna see this little dot of like a person in the bottom corner recognizing me. If there was someone else right here where my hand is, it would only prioritize me. Even if I move out of frame and I come back, it's finding me over anyone else, which is unbelievable. So that feature is really dope. These are my servo speeds. I've played around with these quite a bit, but this is kind of the sweet spot that I found that I've liked, especially if there's gonna be like a rack focus. These speeds have worked well for me. Sometimes I might even take the autofocus speed down to like 4, 5, it just depends. Yeah, it's not rocket science. This is what I've narrowed into using when I shoot on the R1. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you want me to elaborate on anything or explain anything farther. Make sure you subscribe. Light that thing up, because we should put a plaque on this wall. We should do that. One of those YouTube play buttons. But I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you when I make the next video. I love you. Have a great day. Tell someone else you love them, and be a good person. Peace.